Good morning. I'm sitting at the park where we did yoga for this full sugar moon weekend recharge. There's a frog, maybe a gator, something making a call just behind those trees right there. I can't see what it is. You'll probably hear it. I want to share with you the story of the maple tree, the meaning in the legend in the Chippewa tradition, as told by Asha Frost in the book You Are the Medicine. Our third moon of creation is in March, when the snow begins to melt and the sweet maple tree sap begins to run. Maple syrup is a traditional medicine for indigenous people, offered to us to balance our blood. We honor this medicine as a deep healing tonic. This moon asks us to reflect on the sweetness in our lives that flows to us through the words we speak to ourselves and the beliefs we hold about our worth. Unconditional love is an antidote to our inner critic, and this moon reminds us that compassion heals all. During this moon, we celebrate the spring equinox. Creation begins to unfreeze and melt, and new life is born. Moon legend: how the maple tree found its medicine. In the beginning, the trees started as tiny seeds. In their seed state, they began to dream of what they could be one day. Pine shared that they wanted to offer a beautiful fragrance to the forest, so that all who walk there would remember them. Birch spoke about traveling on the water and dreamed of being transformed into material for a canoe. Oak was a hopeful being, believing that anything was possible, and they wanted to share that with all who found their acorns. When it came time for Maple to share, they found they didn't have a vision for their future. The other trees taunted Maple. Without a dream for who you are becoming, you are worthless and insignificant. Maple felt their hearts sink. They felt lost and directionless. They wondered what was wrong with them. Why were they devoid of dream and vision? Were they even good enough to be a tree? They felt like a fraud. Of course, the cycles of nature continued, as they do, and Maple was watered by the rain and fed by the sun. As they grew into a sapling and then a young tree, the birds watched Maple with curiosity. They could see the beauty that Maple carried and the potential they held. Every day they would come and try to uplift Maple. They surrounded the tree with love, friendship, and support. The birds tried to come up with some ideas for the vision of Maple's becoming. "Maybe you could bear fruit for the animals," said Cardinal. "Or perhaps you could provide shade for all of our kin," offered Blue Jay. Maple wasn't convinced. They had taken the criticism of their fellow trees deeply into their heart, and they simply couldn't see beyond that. They thanked their bird friends for trying so hard to uplift them. But, alas, their inner critic took over, and they felt stuck as an imposter. The birds would continue to visit Maple daily, offering encouragement and support. One day it was stormy, and a great wind swept into the forest. It was so strong it carried the birds in its vortex, swirling all around, lifting them and dropping them to the ground. Maple gasped as all of their beautiful bird friends fell to the earth unconscious. Immediately they scooped up all the birds with their loving branches and comforting leaves. Wrapping deep compassion around the birds, Maple began to weep. Maple cried tears of pain that had been stuck in their heart since they were a seedling. They shook with grief about all of the times the birds tried to tell them how beautiful they were, and they didn't listen. Maple cried and cried and cried, their tears washing over the bodies of the birds. Just when they thought they couldn't cry any longer, something magical started to happen. The birds, soaked with the trees of the maple tree, the tears of the maple tree, started to come back to life. They opened their eyes and began to sing the most beautiful songs. "You healed us with your tears, dear Maple," they cried. "The water that flows through your veins is magical. It's sweet and nourishing nectar that can heal bodies and hearts. You are a healer." Maple couldn't believe it. The vision and dream of who they were meant to be finally manifested. Through the release of their pain and grief, they could finally see their gifts and worth. The fellow trees, witnessing what had happened, gathered around Maple in awe. "We are deeply sorry that we harmed you with our words, dear sibling. We see you. We honor you." From that day forward, the sap that flowed through Maple's body would be medicine for all that tasted it. And the maple tree stood in complete confidence, seeing that it was sweetness, not harshness, that would heal. The animal spirit that best represents the third moon is the deer. Maple provides sap filled with sweetness and nourishment, which mirrors the medicine that deer brings to our hearts. Deer stands with quiet grace and humble power, an energy our world needs more of. I believe that we enter this world connected to the source of unconditional love. If we don't get our needs met as children, this connection starts to break down gradually. We hear harsh words and they become our inner voice. We base our worthiness on how much we give or do, and love becomes conditional. Deer is here to remind us to soften into grace, love ourselves as we are, and honor our worthiness. We all deserve kind and loving treatment in our lives, and Deer helps us release the parts that shame so that we can meet ourselves with more gentleness and compassion. Just like the medicine of maple syrup, Deer brings in sweetness. The deer's message: you are perfect in your imperfections. You are lovable unconditionally. Meet your mistakes with grace. You are enough. Dearest dear, I invite you to soften the inner critic that rises within. Help me to see that I am worthy of divine love and care. Remind me of my perfection when all I see are imperfections. Surround me with unconditional love. Help me to offer my physical body gentleness and kindness when shame arises. Root me back into my worth when I feel doubt. I am grateful for your beauty, grace, and love. The Maple Moon Affirmation: I am lovable and worthy as I am. Gentleness and unconditional love heal me. Enough in every way. I am the medicine.